Welcome to Church Jams Now, the podcast where three former youth group kids and current music nerds deep dive into Christian music from the 90s and 2000s. I, of course, am your co-host, Kylan Savage. With me, as always, is Mr. TJ Smith, who's looking at the screen very closely.
Sorry, I had to
kind of closing his eyes. I don't really know what he's doing.
got some vision problems tonight, y'all.
Oh,
I had
man.
to kind of squint a little bit.
There it is.
If you don't mind. What's up?
Oh, I see where you're going there.
Yeah, that was pretty good. We also have beautiful producer Josh Olson.
What's up, jammers?
Yo.
Ooh, nice. So yeah, this is another CJN classic. We have no guest this week, but we're talking about an album I'm super excited about.
As am I.
Should we just get into it? I don't know. Should I just say what it is?
Yeah, go for it. I mean, people definitely don't know. They haven't read the
Yeah.
title at all.
So this is one that has been requested a few times on social media, right, Josh?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it has been.
Something that we've kind of talked about tangentially through a couple of episodes by a Mr. Steve Taylor.
Going all the way back.
If you've listened to, all the way back, Volume 3, Take Me to Your Leader by Newsboys, we were kind of, I would say Steve Taylor neophytes.
Definitely.
We were, I've been slightly embarrassed by people's reaction online to, oh, you don't know who Steve Taylor is? How do you not know this? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know, man. We all,
I'm just going to own
live
it.
our lives and
I'm not embarrassed
consume
at all
media in
because
different ways.
my generation is very different than the generation
I think
of
it's
Steve
a
Taylor.
generational thing. It's
So
definitely a
I'm fine with it.
generational thing. So it's not really our fault.
I feel like
that
we're
we
doing
know
our
about it.
best.
Yes. we
Like
have.
now that we have fully grokked who he is and what he's
Right.
done for music in the genre.
I mean, we've
that we're
covered
working
3
around.
albums he's produced
Yeah.
on this show.
And we're learning
we
a
haven't
lot.
talked about him yet.
With
Other
each
than
album that we cover.
Exactly.
We
Yes.
learn
We
more
learn
about
a little
him.
bit more about him. Yeah, I actually had this thing the other day. There's this horror movie that I watched called Possession. That's wild. It's like this Polish horror movie. And I tweeted about it when I watched it. I was like, dude, why did no one in my life tell me that Possession is awesome? And then some random jackass, part of like film Twitter, like quote tweeted me and said, oh, another day that someone hasn't heard about Possession. And I was like,
Well, you aren't talking about it.
I called him out. I was like, hey, why do you got to do me dirty like that? He's like, oh, it's just, this happens like all the time on Twitter. Like people don't, everyone acts like Possession is this like new thing. And I was like, or maybe people just consume media at different times and have different life experiences. So maybe don't be a fucking jackass.
And look, man, what if like because he saw you tweeting about it, he celebrated that and got excited with you instead of being an asshole?
Which is what we're kind of hoping for here.
Yes.
So come
Please.
with us and celebrate
Jammers,
us learning more
celebrate
about
with
Steve
us.
Taylor.
On our team.
Rather than be judgmental, let's all,
Help
if you
us.
love Steve Taylor,
If you know things,
yeah,
just be
rather than
teachers,
get mad
be
at the
guides.
fact that it's taken us 74 episodes to talk about it, join us where we are and re-experience Steve Taylor.
That's
see
it,
it through
man.
our eyes. Because that's the best. That's my favorite thing, man, is like sharing something you love with someone that has never experienced it. So let us
Absolutely.
be that for you, Steve Taylor heads out there.
100%. We're here for it.
So should we get a little context about
Let's,
who Steve
baby.
Taylor is and what this album Squint is?
I would love to do that. Are you asking me, Kylan, or TJ?
I am asking you.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
Before Josh does that, I do want to share one thing.
Please.
We could dub this a small segment called TJ's Research, and it will be in and out real quick. On Wikipedia, the genre of this album is described as rock, CCM, hard rock, rock opera, reggae/ska. That is all. I'm done.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know much about Steve Taylor, but that totally makes sense to me.
I love it. I am
The reggae
so excited.
throws me, and maybe
Yeah.
the ska. I'm not expecting that, but
Yeah. All right, Josh, tell us.
thank you, TJ. I would like to thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Roland Stephen Taylor was born December 9th of 1957 in
Why
Brawley,
did he not
California.
stick with Roland?
Roland
That's
Taylor.
his middle
It's a-
name? Steve
Yes.
is his middle name?
Steven is his middle
That's
name.
crazy.
Yeah. So he will be turning, this episode's coming out in November. In December, he'll be turning 66. So
happy birthday,
happy early
Steve.
birthday, Steve.
Happy birthday, Roland.
Yep. His career, Roland. His career is from 1983 to kind of 1995, but he's done a lot of stuff post then. He's still active and going on. For this album, it's basically Steve with a lot of studio musicians. Steve is on vocals. He has guitar with Jerry McPherson, who's played with Ray Boltz, Twyla Paris for him, and honestly, a lot of these I have just like too many to name of like all their credits because they're just big
studio
CCM guys.
Yeah.
Everyone has like played with Phil Keaggy to some extent, and, like has like credits on Free at Last, and joined Chagall Guevara, which was like Steve Taylor's side project that I'll talk about in a second. But Phil Madera on keyboards, Wade Janes on bass, who played some sweet bass on Jesus Is Just All Right, I will mention.
All right.
Nice.
And Mike Mead on drums, who played with Phil Keaggy and Chagall as well. Squint, the album we're talking about, was released November 16th of 1993. So by my calculations, this episode should be airing the day before it turns 30 years old, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And I do want to give a special shout out that this was requested a while ago by a fan, Luke Bensing. So thank you for that, Luke. For this record, I apologize that I am just too obsessed with hitting albums on their anniversaries that it took us this long to cover it. But
thanks for your patience, man.
Thank you for your patience, yes. This is Steve Taylor's fourth and final proper solo record. He's done 2 Steve Taylor and the Perfect Foil records in the 2010s.
Okay.
And this was kind of his first album back since 1987, where he started Chagall Guevara with a couple other guys in his band and did that for like a couple years. And then he came back to make this. So this was like his return to form as a solo artist. So it was kind of a big deal back then. It was released on Warner Brothers. It was produced by Steve Taylor.
Nice.
It charted at number 17 on Billboard Christian. And other fun facts that I have is that Steve Taylor named his record label Squint that we know of that had Sixpence on it.
Right.
And there is an accompanying movies from the soundtrack, which has videos for 7 of the 10 songs that I was not aware of until Aaron from Twitter, who is Baron of Grey, mentioned that. So I wasn't aware of that, but it is there, and it is available on VHS. So I think Kylan should get that for Savage Video Rental. You can have a CCM edition where you can rent a Carmen music video. Yeah, movies from the soundtrack of Squint.
Nice.
If you ever stumble upon that, definitely get it.
Yeah, if anyone in the wild finds that too and wants to sell it to me, I will buy it from you.
No, pay top dollar.
I don't know about that. I'll pay middle dollar.
Middle dollar.
Middle dollar. Going once, going twice. Josh, did you see the guy Bob Ludwig who mastered this album has also worked with artists including Led Zeppelin, Lou Reed,
Queen, Bob Ludwig is a good big name.
Jimi Hendrix, a little guy named Paul McCartney, Nirvana, Bruce Springsteen.
Paul McCartney, Nirvana? Who's that?
Paul McCartney, Nirvana. Yeah, it's a Gen Z thing. You wouldn't understand.
Okay, all right.
It's on the TikToks.
Yeah, man, got that Warner Brothers money. I didn't actually have that in my notes, TJ. So thank you for doing a little research there.
I just love our little like 6 degrees of separation moment here, where we're like, "Who's Steve Taylor? Oh, that's Steve Taylor. Oh, and he worked with Bob Ludwig, who worked with all of these amazing artists."
Yeah, Steve Taylor is like I don't know if this analogy is going to make sense to y'all or anyone in our audience, but he's like the Marty Stewart of CCM. I don't know if you guys know Marty Stewart, but he's an old country guy who like literally went on a bus to Nashville when he was like 17 and like played in Johnny Cash's band and played in Merle Haggard's band and played with Ricky Skaggs and like literally played with everybody, then started a solo career and is now kind of seen as like almost a like country music historian just because he's played with everybody.
He was
like and everybody and everyone in the industry knows him. Like he never got to like Garth Brooks level, you know, but he's like that guy, like the the Forrest Gump, like the Forrest Gump
man with the most
platinum
records.
Right.
Yeah. He was just around and connected to everybody.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about Steve Taylor. Like,
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, a little Forrest Gumpy in the 90s 2000s CCM world.
I can see it.
Yeah, and it's crazy that like his biggest claim to fame is just being like the producer for the news. Like I think didn't he write all the lyrics to Breakfast? So it's like that's a Newsboys song, but it's like that's really a Steve Taylor song.
Steve Taylor
Right.
song.
Like,
yeah,
and that's
right.
happened a lot of times on Newsboys where it's like lyrics only Steve Taylor in this song that we all just were like Peter Furler's a lyrical genius. We're like actually
Right.
Steve Taylor's a lyrical
It's
genius.
all Steve Taylor.
Yeah,
Stevie boy.
not that Peter isn't. He has his moments for sure.
Yeah.
But
He just loves that drum machine so much.
He really does.
just in 1999, I think, or 1998, for stepping up to the microphone. So that wraps up my research. I want to know what y'all know about this record and or Steve Taylor's musical career personally that you've either listened to or, if anything, if this is a Larry Norman situation.
I know a little more than Larry Norman. I'm at least aware of Steve Taylor. I've been more aware of who he is, and I've listened to a little bit. Josh, you sent me like last year. What was there's an album. There's a song that you sent me of his. It's from Steve Taylor and the Perfect Foil. That you're like, does this kind of have national vibes? And it was from the album Goliath.
I think it's stand-up comedy or whatever.
Yes.
I think that, yeah.
Yeah. And so then I ended up going back and listening to that whole album, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I will say that's the only Steve Taylor I listened to. I listened to it a little bit back then, and then I think like a couple of months ago, I was excited for this episode, and I did listen to that record a couple of times. So I've only listened to that one from him.
Same. What about you, TJ?
I don't know that I've knowingly listened to any of his stuff, to be honest. I feel like my understanding of Steve Taylor has been witnessed on this podcast over the
I
episodes.
love that.
Over the volumes. So
On air.
So this is it,
Yeah.
guys. This is the final level. This is the end of Church Names Now.
Mm-hmm.
we've arrived.
Yep. Thank you guys so
Finally.
much. Peace out, Monfreres.
I wish we could have made it to 75 episodes, 3/4 of the way there, but
We
we're
tried.
one
You
short.
We tried.
Yep.
No, dude, I'm so excited for us.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm very
It's gonna
stoked
be
for
good.
this. Oh, I was so stoked that I did actually buy the CD version of the CD
The what?
copy of this record. The CD.
what?
Oh no,
The
what am I
version?
talking
He's
about?
holding
Josh
a
is holding up a
cassette tape,
I'm holding a
calling
tape
it a
cassette.
CD.
This is
Josh, are
Guys,
you okay, man?
It's the last
they
episode.
told me
We can be
that
a little
these
loose.
were CDs. I've never seen this before. It's like a laser disc. No, no, it's the cassette. Thank you for correcting me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I bought this on cassette. I found it for a couple dollars, and I was
Nice.
like, "Yeah." So I have it on cassette, and
That's
this
awesome.
turns out to
Sweet,
be
man.
very good. This is actually his only album that was not released on vinyl.
Oh wow.
So it's only available on CD and cassette. So if I like it, I may buy it on CD, and then if I like the rest of his catalog, I may try to get that on vinyl because that'd be pretty cool. But
Yeah,
Josh,
dude.
do you have
they
any
have it at
sense-
Collide? Sorry.
Ooh,
I don't think
question.
so. I don't think so. Steve Taylor stuff is pretty old school.
A little more obscure. Do you have any sense of why Squint was not released on vinyl as opposed to the others? Was it just less kind of celebrated or
timing
less?
thing?
I'm
Popular.
guessing it's just because like the rest of it, all of his other stuff was 80s, mid 80s, when vinyl's obviously still a much bigger thing.
Right.
And maybe by 93, I can't imagine
vinyl
Warner
wasn't-
Bros. Yeah, vinyl wasn't as big of a thing. I think everyone was just pushing CDs and cassettes.
and then
it was
there
the
hasn't been
timeline.
enough like resurgence. Maybe he'll get the CJN
Sure.
bump.
yeah,
and
this will
then-
finally
Yeah.
push him
Yeah.
into getting
Yeah.
that vinyl repress.
All right, we got to
Why
reach
not?
out to Luke Bremer to do a vinyl release.
There we go.
Squint.
Dude, I'm just looking at this track list. Does anybody know what the hell the Lament of Desmond R.G. Underwood Frederick IV is about?
No,
Like,
but
is that a
a
reference
title
that
like that, I'm
anybody
like,
catches?
TJ's gonna love that, right? Like,
I hope
that's
so.
that's
I want
a
to.
TJ title.
That's track
Yeah.
one, man. Like, I can't wait to figure out what the hell that's about.
That
And then-
sounds like a Sooth song title.
Guilty. I would write a song like that. That's very
Yep.
true.
No, and then other song titles: "The Moshing Floor,"
Yes.
"Sock Heaven," and then the last song, "Cash Cow," a rock opera,
Rock
in
opera.
three small acts.
I love
can't
it.
wait.
Yeah, it seems to like, I don't know, because like I said, I haven't listened to this record, but it seems to like toe this line between, like, it's not a joke, but he's not taking it super serious.
But he's winking a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
He's squinting.
Like,
He's squinting.
yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's
the way
Steve
my daughter
squint.
blinks. She does that. So, guys, all right. What do we think? Is Squint going to be a flop or a bop? I mean, I think I know where we're all going to land, but we got to do it for the sake of the show.
I think based on the really weird concepty stuff, I feel like I can safely give it like a modest pop prediction
Okay.
from me.
Cool.
I feel like that's a safe bet. What about you, Josh?
I'm so excited for this record that if it flops, I will be so sad. So I'm pulling for a big, strong
Big bop. Okay.
big bop.
Aspirational bop. I like it.
So, okay. We found on this show time and time again, I feel like it's a game of expectations.
Yes.
Josh, how long is this record?
It is 10 songs at 43 minutes and 9 seconds.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
That is more than reasonable. I think for the sake of dramatic effect and also to temper expectations, I think I'm going to predict a bear flop. I think I'm going to have some fun, but I think as much as we've loved talking about the Newsboys, a lot of the stuff that he has produced and written for them, we've kind of talked about that Newsboys thing of like too much song.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
the
worried
first fire,
that
maybe.
I'm worried I'm worried that that's just going to be like maybe a Steve Taylor thing.
Could be. Yeah. That
And
could be his
specifically
foible.
when given this like opportunity to not just produce for other people, but to do his own material.
Sure.
It's
It's like more
I'm worried
indulgent.
it's going to be exactly. That's exactly the word I was going to use. I'm worried it's going to be
Yeah.
a little too indulgent
Yeah.
into that.
And I
silly
don't
side.
know if this is his first, but I do know some of his earlier solo records had other producers. But I don't know if this is the first time that he produced his own, but that is a potential with that as well.
Yeah, so I'm just like I said, I'm just trying to temper expectations.
I like that.
So I'm going to say a bear flop. I'm trying to be pragmatic, moving into 2024.
I respect that, man.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that's going to be it for us. We're going to take a week and listen to 1995. Josh, sorry.
1993.
93.
It's
We're
the
gonna-
30th anniversary.
Cool. Oh, that's right. We're going to take a break and listen to 1993's Squint by Steve Taylor, and we'll see you on the other side.
I can barely see.
Hey Jammers, interrupting the show here to talk about our favorite sponsor ever, CollideRecords.com. For those of you that may not know, or if it's your first time listening to us, CollideRecords.com has been the greatest sponsor ever. They have vinyl, CDs, all of your physical media needs that you might have, a lot of stuff that we actually cover on this show.
It's true. And you know what's even better is if you use our promo code. for
We
your
have a
first
promo code.
purchase, you can get what percentage off?
20% off.
20? 20! 20%.
That's wild.
Josh, what's that promo code? Hit them with it.
Promo code is Church Jams Now, all one word, to get 20% off your first order at Collide Records. And I would recommend just going and checking out their new releases tab to see what they've recently got in stock, or check out their pre-orders as well. They've always got some new cool stuff coming in as well, in addition to looking up all your old favorites of super hard to find CDs or very awesome precedents of vinyl.
Yeah. So
guarantee
fill
you can
out that
find
back
cool stuff.
catalog, and do it
Exactly.
a little on the cheap.
It's the way to go. So we'll say that one more time. CollideRecords.com, promo code ChurchJamsNow for 20% off your first purchase.
And let's get back to the show.
Thank you. Hey, Jammers. We're all here. What up?
That
I
is
feel
Is this
like
what you
that's
wanted, Josh? Is this what you wanted?
indicative.
exactly. Yep. This is exactly what I envisioned.
Cool. Yeah, we just wanted to take a minute to talk about our Patreon. patreon.com/churchjamsnow podcast. We have lots of cool stuff, and we're doing some more, I don't know, I feel kind of experimental things. We get to be a little looser because we're kind of locked into the format of the show currently,
Super professional, super serious too.
It is.
on the
Super
on the
serious.
show. So it's nice to step back away from that.
For sure.
On the
If,
Patreon.
if there's one thing people know about Church Jams Now, it's that we are super professional.
So much.
And we don't mangle any
totally.
facts. But on
Never.
Patreon, yeah, we we get to be a little more loose. We get to talk not just about Christian music from the 90s and 2000s. You know, we did a little Death Cab series, which was pretty fun. Josh and I did an episode of Disco Dads where we talked about the National.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about
was
that.
fun.
Yeah, and we just released for Halloween, we watched Hangman's Curse with friend of the show, Jonathan Hugendorn. And we put up that video because we're trying that out, seeing if people want some video content. So
Yeah, that was wild.
it was wild. That was the scariest thing I've done this year.
Same.
And in addition to that, we would obviously love for you to become a patron. But if that you're not able to swing that right now, we would love for you to just give us a rating or review on either Spotify or Apple or both. That would be great.
Yeah, do them both.
Yeah, that'd be even better. It takes like 5 seconds. And did you know, guys, that we got a recent review
We did.
that said, title is Church Jams Now, 2 exclamation points. So 1 up in us. And
All
it
right.
says, good people talking good music, and then 2 of the surfer hands.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah.
cool.
Thank you,
Hanging loose.
man 1138. We
like
appreciate
that.
it.
We appreciate
So yeah,
that.
if you give us ratings and reviews, it just helps us
Yeah.
to podcast algorithms that someone determined that says, hey, people like this show. So it takes a couple seconds and it helps us out a lot. We'd love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get Daniel Eck to notice us so we can sell out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And you can join the Jammer Elite if you do that. We'll shout you out, just like Josh just did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
you're
no,
on the
it's-
show and you're famous.
I love getting to see whenever we get a new one, and I'll gladly read it in this
true.
segment.
There we
All
go.
right, so let's get back to the show.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Church Jams Now. I hope you enjoyed those ads as much as we enjoyed making them, which was quite a bit. When you
Oh,
say,
I'm having trouble seeing you, Kylan.
oh, you know, hold
Are you
on.
there?
I'm having
If you
I'm
just-
having trouble seeing you too. I'm gonna get closer to the screen. Hold on.
If you kind of close your eyes a little bit, yeah, there you go.
Okay, yeah, it's all coming into
That's
focus
looking
now.
better.
All right.
Haha,
Okay.
Squint Talk. Welcome to Squint Talk Now.
The visually based gag for an audio based medium,
I love it.
only found here.
So, you know, I feel like this energy is honestly pretty appropriate for the album that.
Yeah, tell us why,
we listened to.
Kylan. Tell us why. How's things going?
You know,
Yeah.
we spent some time listening to Squint by Steve Taylor. I'm a human person, and so I'm going to.
What? No, you're
Yes.
not.
I am
would
not an
hope so.
AI.
If you were
No.
not this whole time, I'd
I'm
be
not a
little
Scarlett
scared.
Johansson. I'm not an
That's
AI.
wild. Well, prove it.
I don't know how. So I'm gonna just say right now to all the listeners. Normally, I give the albums a few listens, you know, to fully. I almost said bathe. Bathe isn't the right
Bask
word.
in it. Yeah,
Bask
bask
in
in
it. Yeah.
No,
Totally.
let it bathe.
I think
Let
that tracks. That makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
But I did not listen to the album until today. I had a rough week, guys. We don't have to get into it, but
How mysterious for
yeah.
the listeners.
Only on
Yeah.
Patreon.
Only on
you get to
Patreon,
know.
exactly. Yeah, if you join our Patreon tier start at $2 a month, you can hear. Yeah, I'll start a series of why I had a bad day with
Kylan's weekly drama, where he dishes the dirty deets, spills the tea just for you.
Yep.
But that's not this.
No, so I didn't listen to the album until today. So my notes aren't going to be as extensive as they usually are. I just want to go ahead. I don't know. I'm a little embarrassed about it because that's like what this show is, and I'm worried that I'm gonna not do it justice, but I'm gonna own up to it right now.
I think just admitting it, it's fine. Admitting to it and just giving that as like a context for why. But then I'm going to say that's okay because I found a website called sockheaven.org
Oh my god.
Oh no!
that has all Steve Taylor stuff of his discography and his songs and everything. And it has all of his songs, and it has like, you can click on the song, it has the lyrics for the song, and it has like snippets of like interviews of him talking about them. So I have Steve Taylor quotes on all of these songs from
great.
sockheaven.org, which was a great resource. So if you're out there running that website,
not .com.
good job.
I'm trying to
Not
go to
.com. I don't know what .com is. There's a .net that's not working, but sockheaven.org is where I found a lot of tidbits on this record that I'm excited to share.
I'm excited too. I think that falls squarely in the general thoughts category as well. So,
Yep.
my
Yeah,
question
I've
is,
got another
TJ, do
general
you
thought.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, which y'all know I generally don't have general thoughts. But I don't know if I brought this up during our part A, but I can't remember if we talked about this in part A, but Steve Taylor's been involved in film as well as audio, right?
I think we talked about it in Take Me to Your Leader when we first talked about him.
Great.
Yeah.
So it's been a long
we have mentioned
time.
it on the show, but it's been a minute. So he's been involved in film quite a bit, and I found that he wrote and directed a pop musical comedy titled Nothing to Lose, based on the parable of the prodigal son. And then I also saw that he produced and directed, I believe, Blue Like Jazz.
That is correct.
Which that was the book and the film were both kind of important moments in my life. I was a big Donald Miller guy coming up. I just didn't realize he was attached to that, and I thought that was worth mentioning.
Yeah, no, he definitely. I'm gonna share it on social media, but whenever he did his 2014 album, the Steve Taylor and the Perfect Foil, they did a Kickstarter for it, and his video to like launch it is really well done. Like you can obviously tell like he knows his way around a camera. Like it's really good.
Sweet.
Nice. So maybe that will endear him to you a little bit, Kylan.
Well, I'm not saying he's
a dramatic, no good, very bad record. I mean, day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I said this off mic too. I might as well say it on mic as well. I was initially pretty grumpy having to listen to this record today. I just wasn't in the headspace. And we've talked about that, how I'm very like susceptible to, my flopper bops are very susceptible to what's going on in my life.
It's entirely fair.
But I have a feeling. So I also want to, regardless of where I land, I also want to give the disclaimer that I want my flop or bop to be conditional. And if by the end of this conversation I'm less confident in it, I want to reserve the right to maybe come back later and change my mind. Is that okay?
That's what the end of year wrap-up's for.
That's right. Perfect. And we're close to the end of the year, so I'm
already preparing for.
Yeah, I don't think either Josh or I are going to be too smug about it if you have to reset your flopper bop assessment at the finish line of the year.
I was going to say the finish.
Nice.
Curses, you beat me to it.
Nice one.
Okay, well, should we dive right in, y'all?
Let's do it.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
With track number 1, The Lament of Desmond R.G. Underwood Frederick IV. What a title.
I love that. You're like, I've been really grumpy today, and this is the first song title I have to read.
Yeah, I know. This is such a Newsboys song.
It totally is. And can I say that I think the opening riff is very reminiscent of our like transition music that you created for us?
Oh my gosh, it is.
Yeah, it really is.
I didn't even notice.
I think it might even be the same chords, or it's very similar, the type of distortion and everything. That was the first thing I thought of when I heard this track for the first time.
That's very funny.
Like,
I didn't even catch that. That's so good.
Yeah.
That sounds like us.
Yeah. And Newsboys also, 100%, to go back to your original point. And it's great. I like this song.
Yeah, it was more straightforward than I was expecting, because I was like, I'm expecting Steve Taylor, the clown prince of like Christian pop or whatever, to like just throw some like super zany stuff at me. And I was like, this is a pretty straightforward, just like rock song. So I was a little like, I was expecting a little bit more from this the first time I heard it. But it's got a lot that I do enjoy in it.
I will say, I think I was pretty spot on in my part A prediction of the kind of things that I'm not into, of like, we've talked about it a bunch of times, but specifically with Newsboys, where they almost have too much song. I feel like this song feels twice as long as it actually is.
No, Newsboys, you were saying didn't have enough song, right?
But it's just like a lot of repeating stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And not enough song lyrically, too much song chronologic.
Yeah.
Time-wise.
Yeah. Like this song could have been 3 minutes.
Right.
You gotta open up and jam it a little bit.
Yeah, but definitely classic Steve Taylor lyrical content.
Completely. I feel like it's the most pop of his kind of
Yeah.
lyrical work across this album.
I loved I was far too young to depreciate when they read me my expiration date.
hmm Yeah, there's a lot of good moments lyrically across this song. The one part that I'm confused on though is the all the name drops.
Right.
In the choruses?
Yeah, do we know who I mean Galahad the Arthurian knight
Yeah.
obviously.
No. I have an exact quote on that actually. Thank you.
That's
PJ.
amazing. Thank you, Josh.
Perfect.
God bless Sock Heaven.
Sock Heaven coming through from interview on Visions of Grey from November of 1993. The interview asks Frederick, the song title, sounds like you're having fun with the name, first of all. And Steve says, yeah, well, it's sort of a chicken and the egg thing. It's sort of like I figured out a chorus and I had to figure out a name to go with it. So basically, he had the lines, and then he was like, I guess the joke is like, let's make each line part of this guy's name, and then he has to he came up with the parts for it, and then he's like, what name can I fit? It's like Galahad, I need a G that starts with 3 syllables.
Right.
So,
Sure.
yeah.
So it's entirely just him kind of
I don't think there's any meaning
into it, or
I think
lyrics
he's
into
just
it
like,
with no
let me
meaning.
give this guy the most ridiculous name, the longest name I can think of, and make a song out of it.
I mean, Galahad, bag your agnostic front is a great line.
It really is.
Mostly because of the name Galahad being used.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I love it. Freddie, get ready to meet your maker. That's great.
That
rhyme
specifically feels very Newsboys.
Yeah, it
Freddie,
so
get
does.
ready to meet your maker feels like classic Newsboys.
Mm-hmm.
Which we're finding out is classic.
Is actually
Steve Taylor
classic Steve
all
Taylor,
along.
yeah.
It's just, man,
It's
we
all
gotta make
making
that
so
meme
much
of like
sense.
this is Steve Taylor, always has been. Like always
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So musically, can we talk about musically for just a second?
please.
We don't really do that on this show.
Yeah. I don't have time codes. I'm sorry, everybody. But towards the end of the song, there's that organ jam that sounds like almost a little carnival-y. It definitely reminded me of B-52s.
Yes.
It felt like he wore a lot of influences on his sleeve on this record.
Completely.
And yeah, this one specifically felt like a little B-52s jam, and I very much enjoyed it.
Nice.
This is a good. We talked about this with Aaron Sprinkle about skate jams. This is totally like a skating rink song.
Yep,
totally.
I just imagine the
it's
black
got that kind of
light
mid
and the
tempo.
neon. Yeah,
You're kind of bopping along with your roller skates.
there's a couple key changes where stuff goes up and then comes down, and then he is singing later in a different key. I think you're right. It probably could be a little bit more concise and shorter, but I think it does a good job of changing things up enough to make it interesting, more interesting than the space that we saw on some of the Newsboys records, like Take Me to Your Leader, where you're like,
that's true.
You guys are just repeating the chorus, and it's a long chorus.
Yep,
a lot here. That's my thought.
Well, and then I will say, as an album opener, I think it is very successful.
Agreed.
Because it does kind of let you know what you're in for. And it might be a little long. It might be a little all over the place. But if you listen to this song, you're like, okay, I think I get the vibe.
Yep.
And it was very unfortunate that it was not the vibe I was feeling today.
It came at a really bad time for you, is what you're saying? The vibe of this album?
It did.
Okay.
Came at a really bad time for Colin. It also came at a bad time for me the first time I listened to it, and I felt very similar, and then went back and listened to it a second and third time, and it's one of those that this song for sure at least was a grower for me. It was easier for me to sort of appreciate at face value the concept of oh cool, it's just this funny story of this guy who was planning on living a lot more life and finally evolving a little bit as a person. Starting to track with my inner guide, getting in touch with my feminine side, playing Cabbage Patch Dolls with my inner child. I love these lyrics, and they work just at face value. You don't have to overthink them.
Right.
And so I was able to let the lyrics kind of wash over me a little bit and just kind of bop with this skate bop, like you named it.
Yeah.
Colin. Yeah, it was the less that I thought about it, and the more I just let it kind of be, the more liked it.
I think that's kind of Steve Taylor's sweet spot.
Yeah, I think so. Because I was like overanalyzing it at first, trying to
Right.
make it make a lot of sense, and it just wasn't. And then I think, something finally clicked, and I was like, "That's what this guy does. He makes a little bit of sense."
That's
with weird
surprising
words.
to me, TJ, because the lyrics of this are like definitely one of the more thought out than like sometimes we tend to cover. I feel like so. Thought you were going to be like full lyrics on, and you might be for some of the later songs, but
Well, I guess I
expected
should
you to
qualify
be
what I'm saying. I am full lyrics, but it's almost like the lyrics are so interesting that I really don't have to overanalyze them. I can kind of just let them
You
be
appreciate the
interesting.
artfulness of them
Yeah.
enough that you're like, I'm good with them as they are.
I just kind of, it's like, I see you, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
It's almost like it's
recognized
almost
game.
like the difference between like an Edgar Wright movie and like a Terrence Malick movie. Like you watch an Edgar Wright movie and you're just along for the ride, and the whole time you like recognize like
and you're like, this guy's
The
smart. He knows what he's
artfulness.
doing here.
he knows what
Yeah.
he's doing. This
Yeah.
is really good. I know there's
sure.
like there's something to this,
Yep.
but it's not important to me for the enjoyment of it to like fully understand it and just kind of go along for the ride. But there's
Right.
like a lot of content.
Okay. I
Yes.
can dig that.
You guys can dig that? Thank you.
That's a great
All right.
analogy. Yeah,
This,
I like it.
I'm trying my damnedest to turn this into a movie podcast.
The inevitable spinoff. It will soon happen, I'm sure. And I just want to mention, I did see that Steve said that he had the line, the news of his impending death came at a really bad time for 5 years before he wrote this song. Like he just had it in his head.
Oh,
like,
nice.
Oh, I'm going to turn this into a song one day.
He kept it in his back pocket
He
and
did, he
then finally
did.
found
Yep.
the right way to use that idea.
Yeah, because I guess it had been
That's
like 5 years or something like that from his last record, his last solo record, because he did like the other band, Chegal Guevara. So I guess he was like, I don't know if it'll fit this band, but I'll pocket this for later. And then he did use it.
I like when that happens.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Sweet. All right. We got anything else about the song title, which I'm not going to repeat?
The Lament.
The Lament.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on to track number 2, Banner Man. This intro's so good.
This intro was the zaniness that I was expecting of
Yes.
like the vocals, and then when the music kicks in here, I love how this music sounds. Like
Yeah, it sounds like a
it's so good.
superhero, like a cartoon superhero theme song.
yes,
Completely.
So when this song kicked in, I was like, this is what I was expecting from Steve Taylor music.
Yeah. I didn't know what else to call this other than like cartoon 90s rock. Like that's exactly what I
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
pictured, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Also, the story of this song is wild. Like I had to look into it a little bit to just like get the baseline of like, oh, it's about like people that are trying to like, you know, get their like their
The guys
like
at sporting events,
John 316
that are-
posters on the sports cam and spread the message of the good news. And like I still can't tell if he means it, if he's being like, you know, really supportive of that and like, hey, good for you. You're out there doing the good work, or if he's like kind of tongue in cheek, kind of like basically saying these like poster guys are like a little bit too into themselves and,
Sure.
and he's just kind of laughing about it. I don't know. Do y'all have any thoughts on that?
I have many quotes about this as well.
Okay.
Unless Kylan,
That's
you want to
great.
say your interpretation of it. But yeah, so I'll say
He's just shaking his
I got
head.
a couple different interviews, all
He's so
from
over it.
all from Saw
love
Kevin.
it.
The guy interviewing him says, I should say that came as a real surprise to me as your take on Banner Man. I did not expect you at all to come down easy on the Banner Man. He's like, I expected some finger wagging and stuff. And Steve's like, well, he said, well, you know what it is after the experience of the last 5 years, those sort of little expressions of faith actually seem cool to me. And then in another interview that I got, but he was saying that it reminded me most of that most of us that come to Christ often come because of very unartistic methods. I don't really have the nerve that these guys do. I don't think I'd have written Bannerman 5 years ago, but it was actually the first song I wrote for this album. In fact, it was the first song I'd written on my own in 5 years. And it seems like this headspace that he was in is that like he was in Chagall and they were playing, there's a regular band, and it seemed like they were kind of like in some dark spaces. And so him seeing these stories of like these guys, and apparently it's like a coordinated effort. I think at some Olympics where like they had monitors, so they would like sit to where they knew like the cameras were going to be, and they were like checking. Like it seemed pretty coordinated of like getting like the John 3:16 on the screen. But like he said, every time he sees him, he smiles a little bit more. He can't help praying for another high score, and it seems like he likes the Bannerman, and it's showing. It's kind of like a street preacher on the corner, like, hey, like. And it's like he's not going to change the world, but he knows who can. And it's kind of just doing your part. So it seems like Steve is actually pro Bannerman.
Advocating for it.
Yeah, and he does say, he said, now I can't do a song like Bannerman without people hearing it and assuming there must be some kind of satire there somewhere. But he says, fair enough. I would expect that from his past work.
I'm glad he has the perspective to see that it makes sense that people would read it that way.
Yes, yeah, they're expecting him to have like a little like one like a dig line at the end of the song. That's what I was expecting as well. Yeah,
it's just straightforward. That's wild. Okay, good to know.
I know. I love that it's just like, hey, I like these guys doing the John 3:16. Good for them.
I mean, hey, somebody's got to be out there wearing the clown wig and face paint. Like, I guess it's the Bannerman. According to those people, they believe that someone has to be out there, and they believe that it's supposed to be them. So, in their own minds, Kylan, someone does.
In their
someone
mind's
has
eye.
to be out there. Yeah, in their mind's eye.
In their mind's
eye.
Just can't be explained.
Just can't be explained. I wanted to mention, I believe, isn't it a Newsboys song that has a co-write from Steve where the word epidermis is used?
Epidermis.
Am I right?
All I can think of is colored people.
Oh, is that DC Talk? Am I thinking of DC Talk?
Yeah, epidermis is so showing funny again.
Okay, so
yeah,
maybe
but I feel like the second you said that, TJ, I was like transported to an alternate reality where that was a Newsboys
where it was
song.
Newsboys.
Yeah, I believed it. I was like, no, for sure. What is that song?
In my mind, they're two sides of the same coin. So, but his verse to Primetime Football in the Buffalo Snow, freezing his little epidermis, lifts that banner at the first field goal, drinks clam chowder from a thermos. Those 4 lines are so great. Like, yes, the character that they're talking about, like, I don't know how you seem pretty cranky about the whole thing, Kylan. I'm a little bit like cynical too. Like, I'm the cynic that he's talking about in the chorus. I think I guess I'm busy navel gazing and being like, does anybody need to be out here with posters, like you said, Kylan? But I love those 4 lines.
Yeah,
like the picture really that it paints: the Buffalo Snow freezing your skin, the field goal.
It's very economic.
Clam chowder.
But like,
it is.
Yeah, but very.
It's a good rhyme too. How many times do you wrap epidermis with something?
And with thermos too. Both are like obscure words to choose.
But it works so good. I want to mention one of my favorite lines where he says, "Sports fan everywhere, dying for a drink, but they've got to find the well first. One man's ready with a banner and a wink. A whole lot of souls are getting well versed."
Well versed.
And he pauses right before because he's like, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do here. I love that. That's my favorite part of the song.
That is a great one.
Yeah, this whole album and his whole vibe like speaks to a level of confidence as a songwriter.
Totally. Yes.
That I really kind of find refreshing. If I'm being honest, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
He knows what he's doing, and he's just
it's not it's not just like no shade being thrown, but it's no like our God is an awesome God. You know what I mean? But it's like a very specific worldview.
Yes, right.
That he is able to like play with.
Exactly.
I think, he does a really good job. It's incredibly unique.
Yeah, and then interspersed with really interesting vocal lines on this one, at least, like the straight up like I guess it's like woes or da da or something. The na 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 whoa da 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 da. Like, it's so catchy. That's an earwig. Like, that's gonna be stuck in my head forever.
Yeah.
You know. So melodically and lyrically, like, there's a lot of skill happening. And maybe at times, I'll just hint at this, a little bravado that might be over the top.
Okay.
Maybe. Like
All
the
right.
confidence you're talking about, Kylan, is refreshing at times.
Right.
And then
Okay.
sometimes it might tiptoe
I like that.
into a little bit of like excess or
Yeah.
a
I
sphere
get
of
that.
extra,
Yeah.
as the kids say.
Credit I want to mention is that there's some fun credits on this record. It says rhythm guitar and then in brackets, including that catchy chorus riff, Dave Perkins. It is a very catchy chorus riff. I do like that part a lot.
Yeah.
I was very curious going into this part B what y'all's favorite songs were going to be, because I'm like, I could hazard some guesses, but I was like, I really don't know, and I'm just excited to find out. With this album, I feel like there could be different times where it's like, this is my favorite song from this album, and then something else could happen. But there are 3 songs that from this last week have been my favorites, and this is one of them.
This is one of them. Okay.
This is one of them. I'm still kind of, I think, figuring out what I'm going to call my favorite, but I really do like Bannerman.
Sweet. I think you guys are going to be surprised by mine.
I'm curious if we have the same
Interesting.
one. We might.
Yeah. This is also a contender for mine, kind of just on a musical basis. And lyrically, if not conceptually. It's like maybe I struggle with the theme of it or the heart behind it, because I'm like, I don't know if we need that poster dude out there. But like you said earlier, Kylan, like the economy in the lyricism and the efficacy of his
He paints a
picture
very
that
clear
he's
picture.
painting.
Like very quickly.
You're seeing it in your mind.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have to respect it. I respect the game.
I just can't get
The sports games?
I
Yeah,
can't get
exactly.
over the
Okay.
cartoon rock of it.
I
all.
know.
I love
It
it. That's
really
my
is.
favorite part.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Every time I
kinda
hear it,
love
I
too.
smile. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just fun.
It's like if Huey Lewis did a theme song for a Cartoon Network.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
it.
there were a couple moments on this record that I got a little Huey vibes, and it's definitely a lot of Strat usage. But then I listened to some previous Steve Taylor stuff, and there's some big Huey Lewis
Huey Lewis,
influences. Yes,
Even earlier.
So,
Interesting.
yes.
All right.
All right. I
Yep.
can dig that.
Good to know.
All right. Let's move on to track number 3, Smug.
Hey mama, look at what your little baby's already come. Hey mama, gonna never make it this dinner tonight. Baby, figure what we mean, mama, pick a listen in our blood. This way, we're here turning smoke.
Wipe that grin off your face, Kylan.
You know who was probably smug was the drummer on this song. I love the drums.
Oh,
on this.
100%.
They're
Yeah,
just
it's
there's
basically
just
Saint
such
Anger, right?
swag. Yeah, for real.
That snare drum.
Uh-huh. Yep. It's just like a big metal keg. But I
Mhm.
love it, dude. It works so well for this song.
Yeah, it does.
The band across this whole record is very tight, very locked in.
Mm-hmm.
It's all guys that definitely know their way around the studio.
This is
Yeah.
the second song so far on the record where he talks about careers.
Yeah.
And I guess Bannerman in a way kind of is.
Yeah, there's a lot of themes across this record of like your station in life, or your like
Yeah.
your social location, or your career or vocation or whatever, and how that informs your place in society. Included in that is like pushing against the norms or the quote unquote mainstream ideology or social cues or whatever the case may be. I just want to know who he's talking to or about.
His mama.
Okay.
He says it a bunch of times. Hey mama, hey mama.
He does, you're right. Hey mama, hey mama. He also says Rome is burning, but I don't know if he's actually talking about Rome. But like I'm genuinely like, do y'all know, is there like
Oh,
a
do
celebrity
I?
or like a social figure that's being called out or talked about here?
There are
Well,
two.
Yeah,
specifically.
he name checks 3 people and uses one of their last names as a verb, which is like real intense, but really good.
What's the other one?
Well, he says right before he
One
says
part Master
one part
Limbaugh.
Master Limbaugh, 2 parts.
2 parts.
No,
Streisand.
Oh, Limbaugh.
But he says-
okay, that's
no,
what he
no.
was saying.
What's
yeah,
the other one?
So
I
Rush
don't know.
Limbaugh. No, he says right before that. He says, hold on, let me find. Rome is burning. We're here turning smug. Strike another pose. Power politics. Swallow their conventions. Get your power fix. We love to mud wrestle. We love to be politically correct. He's not saying politically correct. He's saying
really?
Yes.
Wow.
David Koresh?
Is that not insane?
Wow.
Politically correct is like one of the
That's
like,
amazing.
blow your mind lines.
That's
like,
amazing.
and it's so close to being that too clever by half.
Yes,
but
but it's not.
but-
It works.
if it was anyone else,
Oh,
it would. But
man.
it totally works.
That's crazy. I never caught that. I
Yeah.
just assumed it was like a weird, you're in the ISO booth doing your vocal take and it's like 1 a.m. and you're tired,
Right.
and so you say politically correct and you really
But
like
it makes
mush
sense saying the
the
like
syllable.
politically correct, like the whole
Yeah.
idea of like using religion to like gain power,
Right.
which then ties into so much of the rest of the song,
Oh, man.
which makes
Right.
me.
Catch
Isn't that crazy?
That's so
It's
good.
in the
man.
lyrics, just confirmed
Yeah.
on the book.
Wow. Kylan, you like hardly engaged with this record, but you caught that?
Yeah, that's-
How, dude?
I
I
know.
don't know
That's
how my
great.
brain works.
Steve says from an interview in August of 2005, apparently, says Smug is a song that kind of has one gun pointed at the left and one gun pointed at the right. In fact, when you get to the extremes of either side, they're pretty much the same thing, and they're equally just as smug and self-righteous as the other is. I think at the point, the two people I picked on were Barbra Streisand and Rush Limbaugh, and as far as I'm concerned, they're identical
okay.
people. They seem extremely self-absorbed and self-important, and it seems the exact opposite of the way Jesus taught us to live. The Bible talks a lot of how ugly pride is, and that's what the song is about.
Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm starting to like this song even more.
Yeah.
I kinda already thought it was kinda cool.
I thought you would more.
And
yeah.
I guess I didn't sort of delve into the lyrics because, like I said in the first track, I was kind of the more that I was just vibing with and letting some of the clever lyrics wash over me and not overthink them, the more I was enjoying the music. So I think maybe what happened is by my second or third listen on this song, I was just like, I'm not gonna overthink it. I'm just gonna enjoy it. But now that we're kind of going through it,
yeah, because lyrically, so much of this album, TJ, just feels so right up your alley.
yeah,
Like,
there were
yes.
definitely moments where I was like really locked
Like
in. with it.
honestly, if you had sent me a song with the lyrics, "All you smug, starved millions in the thick of the search, welcome to our church. What you want to solve, we can help you evolve from merely self-righteous to perfectly smug," I would be like, TJ, these are the greatest lyrics you've ever written. Like you could pass this off
As one of my own songs.
as one of your
No,
songs.
I do feel like a little bit of a kinship with a lot of his lyrical stylings and the social commentary.
Yeah. Well, that's
So,
what kept
totally
hitting
see it.
me too, of like it's wild to me like where you're at as a songwriter not being familiar with Steve Taylor. It
Oh,
feels
yeah.
like I found your long lost
He's your
lyrical dad.
great uncle. Yeah.
In a way. But here's the thing, and I'm probably not, I hope I don't show my hand too much, but like I had this moment during my third listen on this record where I was like hooking into the lyrics a little more, not so much on this song, but on a few others. And I was like, I like this, but I think Arcade Fire did it better. Or maybe not better, but I guess what I'm trying to say is the way they did it resonated with me a little more because I relate to their position a little more. And so
Right.
they're sort of approaching things similarly. He's a little over the top sometimes where Arcade Fire would be a little more subtle and
Understated,
a little more oblique, or
right.
use some imagery that could be taken three different ways, and you kind of there's some openness to the interpretation. Whereas like what Steve's saying, he's like not mincing words. He's not leaving much room for
He's your
interpretation.
lyrical Southern uncle.
That's a great way to put it. Very loud.
But you were raised by
Southern
your
uncle.
Arcade Fire by your Arcade Fire parents.
My parents, Win and Regine. Yeah, exactly. Yep, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. I just noticed like the way his kind of some of his themes and his like turns of phrase just like
Oh yeah,
resonated with me as like similar to what you do.
Yeah,
Completely
because
very well,
you
so.
can tell he's putting a lot of thought, and he's very very
Definitely.
witty, he's very clever, and he's very good at writing. So it's like a great, which all reminds us of TJ. So like,
Thanks,
it's
bud.
it's all that is definitely the comparison there. So
No, I appreciate
His
that.
picture on Spotify, he's even got the long hair like you.
he does.
Oh my gosh.
You,
But I
you
think
should have
the-
been Steve Taylor for Halloween.
Oh man, next year.
Next year.
No one will get it. Y'all are my audience for that outfit. The line that definitely resonates with me the most as far as like my writing sensibilities and what he brings to the table, his very thoughtful approach is vain and fickle were we weaned on a pickle.
Yeah.
That feels like something I would write. I'm kidding. That's
Yeah.
the ridiculous Taylorism. That's
Yeah.
like I decided to rhyme something with pickle just for the hell of it, just for fun.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think I could get away with that.
I don't
'Cause
think
he-
so.
It was the 90s. It was a different time.
It was a different time. Yeah, and man, this is a 90s rock record. Like just
Oh, yeah.
across the board because it's ridiculous, it's fun. It has a reggae song on it for some reason.
Oh,
Well, I was going to say,
we're-
I have my note here on this song, actually, that you can tell that Steven is an experienced musician because all these songs like sound so different. Like, it's not like, oh, this song is just a little different from the last song.
Yeah, there's a lot
It's
of variety.
A lot of variety, yes.
That's true.
And I do
Yeah.
also want to mention, I like the falsetto in the choruses that he uses at the end.
Me too. Yeah,
really
that was a
good.
great moment on this song.
Yeah.
Also, what do we know about that outro sample or like the backtrack of like it's like a preacher or something going on.
Yeah.
It made me think of that moment in Underdog, Audio Adrenaline.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it reminded me
Voice
of.
actor, in brackets, the last voice you hear is Phil Madera, who was playing keys on this record. So
Oh, wow.
Cool.
they must have just recorded it for this song.
That's cool.
It's interesting.
All right, losers. Let's move on to track number 4.
I'm not even offended.
But hey, you know what? I got good news for you.
Oh yeah, What is it?
Jesus is for
It's just
losers.
all right with me.
No, he's for
Oh.
losers, man.
He's just all right with losers.
Oh, okay.
Track 4. Jesus is for losers.
Just as I'm stiff-necked and proud. Jesus is for losers. Why do I still play to the crowd? Just as I pass the compass, please. Jesus is for losers. I'm off about 100 degrees.
This is the most streamed song on this record.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
It's got Jesus in the title.
And it's a Red Hot Chili Peppers song.
Mm.
Right?
And it's
Listen,
what Beck
not
would have
wrong.
written instead of loser if he was a Christian.
But listen to his vocal performance.
No, it is Red Hot Chili Peppers. For sure.
Oh, so
That's
true.
straight up Anthony Kiedis right there.
Yeah.
And
100%.
you got like the upfront bass too. If we
Uh-huh.
Yes.
kind of, yep.
Huge in the mix.
And
yeah.
then
This is what I was talking about.
Frusciante doing a modulated guitar
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
Like his
Yeah.
influences on his sleeve, man. This is straight up an RHCP song.
Peppers. Yep. So true. I
Yep.
think that's why I kind of fell out with this album at the beginning of this song. I came
Yeah.
back to it. This first like intro section, I was like, I don't know about this, yo.
I did not like this song at all. But I'm
Oh, you
not a
didn't?
I'm not a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan.
When the instrumentation gets more filled out and like there's more going on, I kind of came around to the song. But yeah, earlier on I was kind of bored.
Yeah, I think it comes at a good point in the record because you've had 3 real upbeat songs, and it comes after Smug too, which is like obviously pointing a lot of fingers. And so I think like I like thematically
Right.
of like being like, because it's talking about like pride and being smug and all this stuff, and then kind of leveling the playing field and be like, hey, like Jesus is for losers, and like him being more honest, I feel like, than we've heard him on this record because
And
it
he's
sounds
talking
like
more
he's-
about himself.
Yes, he's talking about himself. He's not talking about a character or
Right.
characters or celebrities or something like that. So
Completely.
I do like that about it. That's not one of my favorites on the record, but I do think it's sequenced well and comes at a good time, and obviously it is a good message.
Yeah.
If you just switch the word Jesus with California,
And you have to change it from losers to something else. But I did like that someone mentioned in an interview of like how Jesus is for losers. You could take it like either way. Jesus is for losers is a good thing, or Jesus is for losers as like a dig.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He said it did make a few people mad, but he said, I go back to the subversive communication in the Bible, you know. So many times Jesus would say something to get people's attention. He knew that he had to engage their minds as well as their hearts. And so a song title like Jesus is for Losers hopefully makes you want to read what the song is saying. And of course, the song says in summary of what Jesus said, I didn't come for those who are well. I came for those who need a doctor. All of us are losers. That's why we need a savior.
See, I do love, like intellectually, I love how much thought he puts into
Yeah.
like seemingly silly stuff.
Right.
Like that is like on paper, like that's a vibe I can totally like get behind. Like I
For sure.
like that. I just don't like the song, but I respect that. You know what I mean? You guys know what I'm
Totally.
talking about? Like
No,
that's kinda where I
absolutely.
land with it.
I had a lot of moments across this album where I felt exactly that way. Like we've brought this up before. I think you maybe might have been the first person to bring this up, Colin, where maybe in the Othello episode where you said conceptually I like what they're doing, but vibe wise, like the execution doesn't resonate. It doesn't
That
land.
sounds like the Anathallo episode.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've had a lot of moments across this album where that's exactly how I felt, where I'm like, I like what you're doing on paper, but I don't know that the way that you're executing it, when you do it, I don't know if it resonates with me or like works really. Because I like the idea in this song. I think it's really cool. I like that it can be taken two different ways, but I think there's enough to let you know the way he intends it.
Mhm.
You know, like kind of what he's actually trying to say. My main issue with this song was the chorus or the turnaround or whatever you'd want to call it, where it goes back to the just as I am and it goes down where it feels like it's going to lift, like the chordal movement feels like it's just as I am, but instead it's just as I am.
Right.
And it falls, and like there's something that kind of deflates in me as a listener when it's the chorus and there's like a drop, and I'm not even trying to defend my opinion as objectively the right choice and say that this is
I get it.
objectively
I
the
get
wrong
it.
choice, but it was just like kind of a bummer. I was like, that choice is like,
Right.
it feels flat.
To me, it goes back to a lot of the things on this record. You know, it's kind of parallel to a lot of things I've already said. Like, there is this confidence of like, you know, the whole thing is like at this point in his career musically, he knows the rules so well that he can break them.
He's playing with them. Yeah,
but
completely.
just because, but you know, to varying levels of success. Like just
Right.
because you can
Agreed.
doesn't mean you should. And I do feel like there is a lot of that on this record.
Yeah, I think there's times where it works, and then a lot of other times where it kind of doesn't.
It proves his musicianship, which once again, then like
Completely.
conceptually, like I like that. Like that's really cool, but it doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah. Josh, did it work for you? Did you notice that? Did it bother you? Were you just vibing?
Yeah, well, I kind of thought my take on it is like maybe he, like you're expecting, especially with the song Jesus is for Losers, the title, and it's like obviously the most streamed song, so it seems like that's what people are engaging with and going to, of like you would expect it to be this big rising kind of climactic song that maybe has like this, where it gets big in the bridge and like the big chorus at the end. But I think like that's part of the statement of, I'm going to make this song simple and maybe a little like, I don't know, deflating, like you said, because like I'm not trying to make this big like song that like hits these chords and lifts you and like has strings that come in and that like toys with your emotions. Like maybe it's just like, hey, like this is like simple gospel, like kind of, let's not get big and too pompous and boisterous with it. Let's just keep it.
Right.
That's at least what I kind of think he's doing.
Josh,
with it.
you're making a very good point. It's subversion. It's
Yeah.
chordal subversion to match. It's vibe
To
subversion
make
to
it,
match
yeah,
the
just
lyrics.
to make like here's like the message. Like I don't want to take away from like making it the message.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. And I will say, TJ, like got a lot of like kind of what you were saying. At first, I was like, I don't know how this is vibing, but reading a lot of this stuff of like his thoughts on it and what he wrote about it definitely helped them land with me a little bit more. So that context
Give it
helped
more
me.
context. Yeah.
One thing that he said about the song that I liked a lot, it said the impetus of this song came when I was reading that about some porn star that had become a Christian. My first reaction was exactly the same as that of people who might have a problem with the song. I thought, that's just what we need, a porn star for Christ. What an embarrassment for the church. But you catch yourself right in the middle of thinking that, and it's like, are you hearing what you're saying? The whole reason Jesus came to heal people was to heal people that are sick. He didn't come for those who didn't need a doctor. My first reaction to this guy was, go somewhere else. But that's not a real Christ-like attitude to have. These songs are very self-indicting. More context that I was like, yeah, I like that this song. And he's not trying to make it about him or kind of like, he's saying it to himself too. Like, hey, I need to remind myself of this as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, giving himself some perspective. I mean, a lot of the best songs, I think, for me, like the songs that I feel most passionate about that I've written are the ones that I'm trying to tell myself something that I know I needed to hear, if that makes sense. It's not really about what it says to someone else. It's more about like, it's almost like self-therapy, like the message that I needed to hear, even if it's a hard one, even if it's like something that's tricky or challenging to hear or uncomfortable. That extra context is really helpful, Josh, because I think it helps me see that he's wrestling with some stuff of his own and doing it publicly, which is, I got to hand it to him. But that still doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to resonate with me as a listener, which I think that's something you've said before, Colin, where it's like, I respect it. Like, I don't hook into it, but I can respect it.
Yeah, I still I enjoy what the song is doing, but it's not any of the top picks that I'm going to like throw on if I had to pick a top 5 songs on this record to listen to.
But that is cool context. I appreciate you sharing that.
Thanks, Sock Heaven.
Thanks, Sock Heaven.
All right, guys, at this point, we're halfway to the finish line.
Oh.
Track 5,
Nice.
The finish line.
And I saw you brush away rocks, and I saw you pull up your socks, and I saw you out of the blocks for the finish line.
Which is only track 5 for some reason.
There may be a reason why that I'll talk about on the last song for why this is. But yeah, I was like,
okay.
Like, should have this been the last track? Maybe it would be a little too on the nose.
Right.
For having the last track be the finish line. But
sure.
It is set up as like it's like this, either the longest or the second longest song on the record. So it closes side A. So I like that it's like kind of bookends that as well.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like vocally he's really trying to, and lyrically he's really trying to do like a Bob Dylan thing.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
Nice. I was going to say, to me, this starts out as like Larry Norman and ends in like weird, loud, angsty rock opera.
Also Larry Norman.
Yeah.
Also Larry. But like, okay. Kylan, I don't know if you saw this coming. This album, more than any other that we've covered on this show, reminded me of the weird experience we shared of being in the musical production.
Oh, and Hedwig and the Angry Inch? Yes, me too. Me too. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. Isn't this like very Hedwig? Like, it's like the act 2 kind of like rise and fall.
That's why I kept thinking like it's got like, has he done musical theater? Because this feels like
completely.
I mean, if you've done film, surely. If you've done music and film, that's the bridge between them. So surely
the show that he did in the 80s, the musical comedy, was like it was like a whole thing with the prodigal son. It feels that, I'm sure that was very musical theater.
This feels like indie theater production.
Mm-hmm. Which is just crazy to me that it like reminds me of a stage play that we were in about a transvestite.
right. About a transsexual punk rock beauty queen who's in love with a guy who's a Satanist, and like all basically like
that's
content wise the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna play. I think I know what song you're talking about too, TJ.
Mm-hmm.
Let me play it
you probably do. I couldn't call it to mind, but I was like, this has some Hedwig vibes.
Origin of Love, right here.
Oh yeah, exactly.
The earth was still flat, and clouds made of fire, and mountains
It's like the same key.
up to the sky.
Which talks about like how the story of how human beings
The
used
same
to be
song.
like one, used to be like one creature and then separated so that they could love each other physically.
Yeah, it was some
And,
meta
like,
stuff, man.
Yeah,
Like,
it was weird.
kind of cool. And the like syncopated singing.
Like this is like tonally,
It's
like
the
content wise, the exact opposite of Stu Taylor's, but vibe wise, the exact same.
Yes,
Very true.
you could lay these songs on each other, and they wouldn't conflict too terribly.
No.
That's so funny.
That's wild,
That
man.
is very good. I like that.
I really hope John Cameron Mitchell was secretly a Steve Taylor fan.
Or maybe they
Vice
were.
versa.
Hedwig came. Yeah, that's true. Maybe they did some weirdo theater together.
Traveled in the same
Weirdo
circles.
theater. Yeah, I'll say I like the idea of this song. I like the message of this song, what it's saying. But musically, this is probably the least interesting one to me.
Yep.
It just, it doesn't get to the
Unless
levels.
you've seen Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Unless I was in Hedwig
been
and
in
the
it.
Angry Inch. Yes, yeah. Unless I did that. So, yeah, I'm not like dogging it, but like this was just not my favorite musically. But I like what it is, and he talked about that he wrote it to kind of like encourage like some of his friends that were kind of like struggling with their faith, and like it did. And so at the time of this album or whatever, he said that it was his favorite song.
Well, can I also just point out it's got one of my favorite lyrical things that we don't get to talk about much on this show. But he says the
The
line,
old country turnaround.
No, he says, "I saw you and your comrades bum cigarettes."
Bum cigarettes. I knew it. I knew you'd point
And
that
you guys
out.
know I love cigarette references
Yeah.
in songs. It's just such a good word, like
It's true.
to fit in somewhere musically. And I mean, you guys know I use it in like every freaking
No, it's
song.
part of Kylan Savage Bingo. Is
Yeah,
Yep.
it's
darling,
true.
whiskey, cigarette.
Cigarettes, God, my dad.
Yep. And the context that line is in too is really cool. I saw you licking your wounds. I saw you weave your cocoons, and I saw you changing your tunes for the party line. I saw you welsh on your debts. I saw you and your comrades bum cigarettes, and you hemmed and you hawed and you hedged all your bets, waiting for a sign. That rhythm scheme is cool. The rhyme scheme's good. Again, the picture it paints is really solid and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, there's no shortage of writing talent across this album. Whether or not it lands or like, resonates. I feel like I'm saying the same thing over again, but just
No,
respect.
It's okay.
Respect,
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
and another thing I also respect is an inferred title track, which is fun. Because he
Oh,
does
yeah.
say
Oh,
squint
yeah.
in this
Squint.
one, where he says, often the innocence bloody but wise as you squint with the light of the truth in your eyes. And he says, we don't necessarily see the finish line real clearly in front of us. We have to sort of squint to see it. We're pretty sure it's there. It's not easy running this race. So,
Okay.
yeah, more like I really like this idea, but musically, it's fine.
Right.
But
Right.
and I did think it was interesting that it has like almost that same kind of modulated guitar in the right channel again. So it's weird having that two songs back to back, which makes me think he originally was going to put this as the last song, but then
Right.
changed it. So
Yeah.
Interesting.
I also think this is a great example of like we're in to track 5 on this album, and we've heard him sing a lot of different ways. Like he is a master he's a chameleon of vocal affect. He turns it on like a switch, getting into different modes. Like you said, Dylan, I was hearing Larry Norman, I was hearing Hedwig and like other rock opera kind of stuff. It's so many different, and we're going to hear more like as we get into it. But it's just crazy.
He likes to do a bunch of different things with his voice.
It's essentially character work, he's kind of like taking on a character for every song and becoming them in the way that he approaches his vocal performance, which sometimes again works and other times
It just feels like a lot of unnecessary
doesn't.
work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, cool, but can you just sing the song, buddy?
Yeah.
Like,
Because
yeah.
sometimes I'll be honest, like that vocal performance where he's really putting it on, and you can tell that it's like a performance and a character, like it kind of gets in the way for me. Like it distracts me from actually hooking into the lyrics that we've acknowledged are, a lot of times really solid. So yeah, it's kind of like, hey man, maybe have a little more self-awareness and turn down some of your character work.
yeah. Well, I was going to ask what you guys thought of his voice, because he kind of does have a weird, strange voice.
I like it a lot of the time.
And
I do
maybe
too.
it's because he's like, I don't have like a smooth crooner, like professional pop singer voice. And so maybe he's
Right.
like, if I just kind of lean into certain things,
The
It feels a
theatricality.
little bit
Yeah.
like a crutch, like almost kind of the exact opposite of what we've been talking about with like the musical confidence. I could
He's like
see
hiding
that
behind.
being like, like a vocal lack of confidence,
Yeah, because I feel like he was doing a little bit less of it earlier. Like it's kind of like the Bannerman thing, like the 90s cartoon
when he
rock.
gets to like the more serious, like autobiographical songs. Maybe he's
Mhm.
a little like, I gotta play into this.
Right. And he's kind of leaning on the character too heavily. Yeah, because like earlier, the Lament track, Bannerman, Smug, all three of those, like I didn't notice too many offenders in that way,
Right.
vocally.
But then it starts to really, starting at
It
track
creeps up.
4, it really,
Mhm.
when he's doing his Anthony Kiedis, and then it really goes
Yep.
into,
Yep. As we'll
He's giving
see
you a
as we
whole
go
history
on.
of rock legends here,
Essentially.
This record. Yeah.
for sure. Which goes back to what I said in part A. He's like the Forrest
His
Gump
impressions.
of Christian rock.
Yeah.
Okay,
Looking through.
guys, you ready to?
Speaking of rock,
yeah, for
let's
real, some
go
real rock and roll.
to the Moshing Floor.
The Moshing Floor.
On the moshing floor. On the moshing floor. Whatever stage, whatever floor. Hang time, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. What are we dying for? No you and no mother, no man and no smile. That style, that form, is the body still warm?
I couldn't stop laughing at this, guys. This is
Tell me
this
everything.
is- this
Yeah,
is,
why?
Well, it's a song about moshing by a guy that has very obviously never moshed in his life.
Yep.
Like, and he can't help but be zany. Like, it starts
Yep.
out, it's like, okay, there's the distortion, there's like the feedback, and then it's just like the music's like kind of heavy, but it's almost like a
Mhm.
weird kind of Devo thing. Like, it's like real dancey and not heavy at all, and I think it's very funny.
And like weirdly Scottish at certain points.
Yeah.
No, when the verse kicks in, well, we can listen to it when it comes back around, but the verse, like the cadence of the vocal melody is very Born to Be Wild.
Yes.
So it's like, get your motor running.
That's so funny. I did
Head
write.
out on the
I did not write
highway.
very many notes, but I did write Bachman Turner Overdrive
Yep.
on this. So yeah, that's so great.
It also has like it's like I'm not saying that this is some kind of Aerosmith or like Rolling Stones ripoff, but it has this like weird, again, like it's the character. He's like putting on a character of like Mick Jagger or Steven Tyler or something, and like trying to be real hard. He's like
Right.
trying to be real rock and roll. But like you said, it's like he's wearing a costume essentially, trying to
Right.
pretend like he knows about something. I don't know, man.
I
Because
like
it just feels tropey. At a certain point, it's just like, you're doing like the moshing song now. Okay,
right. Yeah, yeah.
you're doing
Rather than
the Chili
being
Peppers
authentic
song.
about it.
Yeah.
Hold on, I just need to listen to this part again real quick. I love the vocal split when he
Yes.
says crawl.
Yeah.
I want to do that crawl like that. That feels authentic.
Yes. There are so many moments, those little kind of like micro moments of his vocal performance that are great.
Like his
They're
voice
really great.
breaks. Like
Yes,
yeah.
I think especially his range when it's like high chest voice and head voice, like right in
Mhm.
that sort of like octave or half octave even, where he's hanging out like in a really raw space between chest voice and head
Yep.
voice. I think he excels there. And then when he goes into full falsetto, it's beautiful. Like he really pulls that off. And I wanted more moments like that on the album. There were
Yeah.
enough that I was like, oh, cool. Like he does have some vocal chops, which if I could tell him anything, it would be like, hey man, quit the character work and just sing, because
Right.
clearly
Yeah, yeah.
we have these moments where he's just showing up authentically and we're loving it.
Yep.
So I'm glad you spotted that because that is so
Yeah.
good.
I really enjoyed that.
Crawl.
Yeah. It's like that just feels so real. That feels like
Yes.
he sung this song 15 times.
He was like, that's the one.
Exactly.
That's
Yep.
the take.
I've got a lot of stuff on this, so I want you guys,
All right.
and I think that it will like sway you. I don't know where you're at with this, like currently right now, like TJ and Kylan, because like you were saying, guy that's probably not done a lot of moshing in his life. I'm curious, TJ, where you're at, like with this song.
I like it. I like the line about baby boomers feigning dismay, the nanny that faked her resume, malls and religion, build the new forts, Jesus' franchise in the food
Franchise.
courts. These are great lines. They're great lines. It just feels I would rather have these lines in a song that I could really hook into and take seriously on a level. It doesn't have to be hyper serious, but like
Right.
the moshing floor does not necessarily feel like the best context for that. I get it though, like the raw energy, and he's just kind of mad, and he's like trying to use that energy to convey a message. So on one hand, I can understand it, and I can be like, I see what you're doing. I'd rather have those lines in a song that I could really be like something more like smug, where I could.
Right. Well, I think for me too, yeah, because there are a lot of good lines, and with the exception of that one moment, his vocal performance on "Crawl," I think this song suffers more vocally than anything else, because he's doing almost like an Iggy Pop kind of thing, but then he's doing the like, it's all just because it's a very kind of punk rock thing of which I know he was going for, of just like mostly just kind of one note. And it's just kind of nonstop throughout the whole song.
Right.
So then
you kind of numb out.
Yeah.
And you're not
so you don't pay as much attention except for a couple, like literally exactly the specific lines that you called out, TJ, were like the only things that I really paid attention to.
Yeah, I hooked in on those lines especially, and the rest of it kind of was lost on me.
Okay. Nice. Well, I gotta say,
is your favorite song,
what do you got for us, Josh?
It probably is. I really love this song a lot. And I love just how like big and frantic it gets at the end, and it just gets huge, and there's a sweet halftime chorus at the end.
I forgot about that.
It's the trope of why we always, but I was like, if you go halftime, I'm gonna love it. Like, it's great. So I don't know. I love like songs like this. And Kylan, I remember back in the day, there was a Say Anything song on Israel Boy that I really liked, An Orgy of Critics. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense that you would like this because it's kind of like hectic, chaotic. Like, it's kind of Project 86 when I was like a huge Project 86 fan. So I was like, maybe I'm just kind of like into songs like going off the rails a little bit in that direction. But this is like, I feel like this one does, which fits the vibe of the Moshing Floor.
For sure.
Definitely.
What he was talking about that I think you guys will like, or TJ especially will like a lot about this, kind of like what you're saying about a guy like who probably hasn't done a lot of moshing. He said there's something about a bunch of people bouncing off of each other that really represents a lot of different things. But then he says, you've got a lot of these baby boomers wringing their hands saying, what's going on? I'm saying, what do you mean? You caused this. You hired the nanny to raise your kids. What are you talking about? And then he also says, he said, really, it's sort of amusing to see parents wringing their hands over Beavis and Butthead or moshing. So he's just kind of using moshing as like something that like, what are you guys doing? Where he's like, and he says, you guys made this. Why are you asking psychiatrists what's going on? These are the very fruits of your labor. So I like that. And I feel like, I don't know, that's some like millennial, that's some generational like stuff.
Yeah,
that
for sure.
As a millennial, that I'm like, oh, we relate to this.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah. So this was the Gen X version of that.
Right. And it is interesting seeing his perspective right in the middle, the sweet spot of like, he's the one talking about the baby that was raised by the nanny, but he's not the baby himself, and he's also not the boomer. And so he's like kind of right in that middle pocket, which offers him a certain amount of perspective, which I think is why, he's able to write a line like that. Jesus is a franchise. The food court line is very dated, obviously. Doesn't quite hold up.
They still got those.
Yeah.
Not as culturally relevant.
Yeah.
Sad and
he does.
now.
I did miss that. He says, talk about, I like the third verse when it says, malls and religion build the new forts. Jesus' franchise in the food courts. Jesus has become just one more thing to grab and throw into your philosophical bag. It really has nothing to do with moshing other than it was a convenient metaphor. Hopefully there's a lot more under the surface.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
So yeah.
But I mean, the baby boomers like being sort of a shorthand for like wealth and privilege makes the mall line make sense, right? Like, it connects.
Threading that needle.
Threading that needle, baby. That's right.
Well, Josh, I'm glad we got to your favorite song.
I have talked about so many different favorite songs, and you guys have said nothing on this record yet. We're about to go into track 7. I'm just baffled.
I'm mostly curious about Kylan's.
I am as well.
Well, let's move on to track number 7, Easy Listening.
Give me that all the time, easy listening.
What would you guys say if I said this was my favorite song?
I would say, what in the white boy reggae hell are you talking about?
yeah, that's the accurate. That's the accurate response. This is my least favorite song on this album.
No,
Great.
really?
I
Good.
hate this song. I
Good.
Why?
hate it. Hate it. Hate it. Hate it. Hate it.
What was the other like white boy reggae song that we like ragged on real bad
It was some Ursuit one, wasn't
in
it?
an episode?
Earthsuit. Yeah.
Yeah,
there's something
I think
else
it was.
too, but
Yeah, there might have
Yeah.
been one other.
I don't do well.
Apparently,
I
we're not
already,
a fan.
I'm not a big reggae guy in general. It just doesn't resonate with me.
Yep,
And,
and,
then
there's
white guy
the most egregious of the character acting that we've seen Steve do.
Exactly.
This is bad.
His vocal
This is bad, dude.
performance is really. And we talked about this originally on. I think we first brought it up on the Super Chick episode
That's what it
of,
was.
of
That's what it was.
the
Thank you.
patois,
Yes.
the affecting the Jamaican accent.
Yeah.
Just does not work for me.
No, me
So
neither.
I could not even tell you what this song is about. I listened to it all the way
I knew
through
you were either
because
gonna love this song or hate this song.
I
So-
hate it with a fiery passion.
Well, that's my problem with it is like if it did make a little more sense to me, and maybe Josh, you've got some sock heaven nuggets of wisdom that can help
do
contextualize it. But like at the moment, y'all, like it is a mess. Like it doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. I think it's a little appropriative, not just like the vocal affect, but like the themes and subject matter that are being used a lot of times. And I just couldn't figure it out at all. I was like, is this some future Jamaican grandpa that's like telling his grandkids a story about something and I don't know what it is and I'll never know because none of it makes it doesn't make a single sock of sense.
Man. A single sock of sense.
Yeah.
Oh man. Guys, this is a safe space, right?
Yes.
For sure.
Okay.
Yes.
This is also one of my favorite songs
Oh
on
my
the track. I love it. Okay.
Tell us
okay.
why, man.
This is
Tell
pretty
us why.
indicative of the record in general, though. The first time I heard this, I was like, oh, there's the reggae ska that TJ mentioned from the genre on Wikipedia
Yes,
or whatever. But I
it
was
all
like,
made sense.
I was like, what is going on here? I did not like it. But then it kept getting stuck in my head. And it's just, this is the most out there song, in my opinion. And I ended up just really enjoying it. And I get the whole like I was worried about the appropriation thing a little bit. But I was like, Steve just has such a weird voice, too. Like, he's leaning into it a little bit. But I don't feel like it's, like, too much. At least
Right.
in my mind. But there's a lot that I really, really like in this song. Like, first of all, the premise of this song, where it's called Easy Listening, and in the song he says, "Give me that old time easy listening." And in Steve Taylor's mind, the joke he's making is easy listening equals reggae. Like, I love that idea. That seems like a joke right there.
That's so funny.
That he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a song called Easy Listening, but I'll make it reggae." So I love that idea. And then I love the lines, "My conscience was clear, but my wallet was full. I didn't hear none of this sacrifice bull," which I love that. That's so clever of obviously bulls used for sacrifice and using
Right.
bull as BS. Like, that's
Mhm.
genius for me.
That's really good. Yeah. I didn't appreciate that line fully until this moment. Thank you, Josh.
I love it so much. And then his easy listening. That's that's an earworm right there. You can hate it. I can understand if you hate it, but I really love it. I think it's hilarious. And his Barry Manilow or whatever that he does.
That was wild.
Yes, it was. And so I'm going to say I'm just going to spill all my beans right here. He was talking about that it just surprises me that a lot of CCM music still seems like it owes more to Mr. Manilow than anybody. So don't get me wrong, I love Barry Manilow as much as the next guy. Maybe I'll do a cover album, maybe of all Manilow tunes someday. But I think a lot of that music is just about telling people what they want to hear.
Oh, yeah.
And then he says, plus it was another chance to dabble in another musical genre that I can mess up as thoroughly as I've messed up with previous ones. And then I think the
I
idea...
appreciate that.
Yeah. So he's definitely not thinking he's nailing it here. I think that's the
Yep.
point of it. Is like,
Well, yeah, it lets me know that he has some self-awareness and some humility about like where, like his social location, where he's coming to all of these genres from,
yes, yeah,
which helps legitimize it a little bit for me. I'll say.
Yes, yeah,
So
yeah.
That's good. That's good. Pull quote.
And then I guess the song in general is talking about, he's like, an old man gathers his grandchildren together in the year 2044 to tell them about the good old days of the 90s and 80s when Christianity meant easy living, satellites replaced one-on-one evangelism, and sacrifice, in quotes, was a dirty word. So I guess that's kind of the idea of this song of 2044, which also works for
So I wasn't too
2024,
far
which
off.
is next year. No, you weren't. You were right there.
And I just thought he was pretending to be a Jamaican grandpa because
No,
he sounds like one,
Yes, he does.
which
but
is
yeah.
weird, Steve. Don't do
Easy
that, man.
listening. I'm gonna start a radio station, spread the good word, and the Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow.
Yep. So I came very full circle on this song. At first, I was not into it at all and did not like it. But the more I listen to it, and the more I feel like I'm in on the joke with Steve on it, like so that helps me enjoy it a lot. I understand it's a extremely ridiculous song, but that is
really
why
is.
I like it so
That
much.
context does help a little bit.
Yeah.
Not much.
Yeah,
but
like
a
I
little
said,
bit.
a smidge.
That's all I can try to do. Just a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Wow. Okay. 7 songs in. No one's favorite song.
No one's favorite song yet.
Wow.
Well, I mentioned
other than
I had a
y'all's
contender.
favorite songs. Oh, you did have a contender with Banner Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
okay.
I really warmed up to Smug a lot more too as we went through it. So I think those are my
gotta get
contenders at the moment.
smug.
Yeah.
Well, curses. We haven't hit
Curses,
my favorite yet.
Kylan.
Here's track number 8, Curses.
What's that I hear?
Is it
Can't do
salty?
it, man.
Oh no.
Is it
I
sour?
can't do it. I can't
Oh no. What a bad day you're having right now.
do it. I know. I also hated this song too.
Oh.
It was just back to back. I think I just
too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay,
Oh.
but that's what, that's not fair. This is some sweet bass.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
You're right. You
I'm
guys
glad.
you're fully right.
We thought so.
This was going to be a dark day if there was no sweet bass on this entire
I know.
record.
I know. No, you're right. That might be the first CJN episode with no sweet bass. If I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, all right, that was a good catch.
Might be. Yeah, I don't dig this song.
Except it does this for 4 minutes. Only this.
Yeah, this is like
only the
proto
first
nu
part
metal
of the.
kind of
It's very like System of a
sludgy
Down,
stuff. Yeah,
and
not into it.
I was not into it either.
I was kind
And
of
then
feeling like Alice in Chains, kind of like
Yeah,
90s rock
definitely some
grunge
Alice in
kind of
Chains.
stuff. Yeah.
Mhm. I do love that falsetto moment where he goes up to "Never have I seen him slip through your hands." Again, that's one of those like micro moments of vocal authenticity where his just natural vocal performance shines, and it's great. That was kind of to me the redeeming moment on this whole song. Like that was
Oh, dang.
it.
It's
Yeah.
just just that do do do.
It's dark and like broody and not. I don't know. There's like good ways of doing that, I guess, for me as a listener, and this is the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most straightforward songs on this record.
Mhm.
So it can kind of get a little bit rote and tiring.
Right.
I will agree with that.
And the line, as we watch the family die, an orphan choir rehearses their daddy's left without a goodbye. Will you, my man, buckle under these curses? That's so dark, man. That's so sad. Like,
True.
I was just like, oh, good writing, but like took me to a bad place. It's like, oh.
Yeah, and then the curses fall on another deserter.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
This one's intense though, but
it is.
which I got in looking into it that he's writing about like men leaving their families and
Mhm.
their children and whatnot. So I was like, at first I was like, I thought it was like deserting your faith or whatever, but I was like, deserting your family. I'm like, okay, that makes a little more sense why it's more
Yeah.
like dire and a little.
But it still just feels very judgy and like not like it doesn't feel like the self-aware Steve from Jesus is for Losers. It feels like smug but worse, kind of. It's like very finger pointy. Still a bummer. Like a valid critique. That's what I mean to say. But like maybe your position could be like a little more aiming at redemption or like I don't know, trying to find some kind of salvation in the image of the person that you're speaking to. I don't know. It just, those kinds of songs really like don't work for me because I'm like,
Right.
ugh, woof. It's a bummer.
I get that.
Sorry, diatribe over.
No, you're good. I felt like, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he changes the vocal melody a little bit in like the last chorus because he goes up a little bit higher in those falsettos, at least for some of them. And so to me, I don't know. I don't think the chords changed, but it makes it feel more major, like, and more, I guess, resolved to me. Maybe the chords were changing from what they were previously, but I thought it was like just in the vocal change. So I did enjoy that. I was like, oh, that kind of changes things up a little bit.
Yeah, there was a
I
shift.
didn't enjoy
at the end.
anything about it.
Ooh. That was a rough record, man. I'm sorry.
I love it too because I feel like Kylan is letting me say all the things about this record that he doesn't like, and he's just like not like I'm like your like your what's the bit, the anger translator, the Obama anger translator.
Yeah.
I'm your Steve Taylor anger translator.
I don't want all the Taylor
This
heads
episode.
coming after me. No, I it was the 1-2 punch of easy listening and curses that I
Yeah.
because okay, I will say like I had a good time through quite a bit of this record, but this like back little chunk, I couldn't do it.
Right.
That's fair.
Yep. I'm with you, man. I think it was like the black hole of the record. Like,
Yeah.
we've been orbiting around the Steve Taylor universe, and then this
This is where the record started to feel
track 7
really
and 8.
long to me.
Yeah, it
at
does.
It does
this
get a
point.
little long in these last couple songs.
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling it too.
Like it's a little too much, but
And this one, I also have the least amount of cool notes and context about as well. So
well, then let's
Good to
just move
know.
on to the next song.
Let's go to
Track
heaven,
number
y'all.
9, sockheaven.org. No, it's just Sock Heaven.
One pile waits with the gun in a box. The other pile nervously locks heaven. Misfits lost in the quiet take off. Maybe there's a place up in Sock Heaven.
But see, then this starts to bring it back for me. I
Okay,
love
but
these
is this a
drums.
Genesis song or like
Yeah.
Peter Gabriel or something?
Uh-huh,
Because
for sure.
it's kind of awesome.
And it's great. It's pretty good.
yeah, with that weird
This to me
bass
is sweet,
going.
sweet bass.
Yeah, and it's got like the like
bass.
electronic
I'm into
drums
it.
with like the kind of like world music thing. This also we talked about.
kind of stuff.
I don't remember what we talked about it on, but musically, this also sounds like a Donkey Kong country level.
It definitely could.
Like this
That
sounds
was
like
a
something.
for him episode, I think. wasn't
Yeah, there it
it?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This I could also see on a Super Nintendo on a big old
Mhm.
CRT TV in my parents' basement.
Yeah, and those like high female vocals, the weird slide
Mhm.
guitar that comes in. It is very like world music kind of. I don't know. It just makes me think of Peter Gabriel, like straight up. Who does he sound like this time?
I don't know. I couldn't figure it out on this
Almost
one.
Bowie, kind of like when Bowie's doing
Mhm.
like his more tender kind of vocal styling. It's wild.
This was another come up song for me where I was like, at first I was like, I'm not into this. And then the more and more I listened to it, I was like, I kind of like this. It's weird. It's out
Yeah, this
there,
one grew
but I
on me
enjoy it.
too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Same. I still don't understand it.
It must be a fan favorite.
Yeah, if they named
Yeah,
it
I
the
mean, the
website.
website's named that. Yep. You said you had some context for us on this one, Josh, right?
Man, I do. I almost have too much. And a lot of this stuff I will say,
Let's go.
it seems like Steve is saying kind of the same thing to different interviews. So a lot of it I feel like is a little bit of a retread. Yes, Scott?
Prince.
It
Answer
is
your
Prince.
question, TJ.
It is. Thank you so much. I knew there
That's
was like an
what it
iconic
is.
It's Prince.
figure that I couldn't
Yeah.
place. Thank
Yeah,
you
yeah.
so much.
He's doing
It is
Prince.
You're
Prince.
so
He's doing
right.
Prince.
You're so right.
Yeah, it's Peter Gabriel meets
Well
Prince.
done.
Sorry, it hit me when I was listening. to,
No, I'm so glad.
to the high part.
Okay.
Yep.
That's so
Okay.
satisfying. Thank you.
All right, so he says, Sock Heaven is the most autobiographical song that I've ever done. It tells the story of my retirement and my coming back into the music world, and then with Chagall, the other previous band, and then returning to Christian music. Said, when I retired from gospel music, it wasn't because I was angry or disenchanted or anything like that. It was just because, frankly, it felt like there was something else. It felt like if I would have stayed in at that point, I had completed my contract. I had an offer to do another one. I think there was something inherent in the offer. It was sort of like, we want you to keep selling a lot of records, and you really need to become at least somewhat more mainstream in your approach to this. And so if I would have stayed in at that point, I probably would have been doing it for the wrong motives, because financial security would have been probably primary in my motive, but the thought of sort of becoming more mainstream was not very appealing. And then he says, I did like the part where he was talking about my experience in trying, he's talking about it in another interview of talking about labels. My experience in trying to get something going with a label in like the early 80s was I look around to some pop labels and they said, we like the music, but the lyrics would offend our listeners. And of course, then I went to Christian labels and they said, we don't like the music and the lyrics would offend our listeners. So on both sides. But yeah, when that song was written, I was still trying to sort it all out. So I like the idea of him being like, I don't fit in. This one side sits with their God in a box and the other side sits and nervously mocks heaven. And so I like the idea of like being a misfit between those two and be like, hopefully maybe there's a place in sock heaven for me.
So he's really like akin to Larry Norman. Like he's like that. He's in that misfit space.
He's like the next generation.
Yeah.
That's cool. That really helps make the song make a little more sense. Didn't want a platform to build a new church. Didn't want a mansion in rock heaven. Didn't want more than to be understood. Maybe there's a place up in sock heaven. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I like that it's couched in this kind of silly idea. Sock
Yes.
heaven is just
Again,
and,
feels
losing
but it's
socks
something
in the
that's, like,
dryer.
classic.
yeah. But it's
Taylor
like instantly
zaniness.
relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a commonplace object that he's like projecting meaning onto in a way that we can all relate to.
Correct.
Yeah.
And turning it into his
cool.
most autobiographical song about losing
yeah,
socks
yeah.
in the dryer.
Man, why
But
do
yeah,
I all of a sudden really like this song a lot?
That's what I'm saying.
That's
Is like
crazy.
I really needed
I already
the
liked it.
context of like, that
man.
elevated
Yeah.
this whole record for me. Having
Yeah.
that extra context.
Yeah, because
And
it makes it
hopefully-
personal.
Yeah.
When you understand it, you're like, oh, like we've all kind of felt, othered or like isolated or left out or misunderstood. And yeah, he's really confessing his experience and trying to share it with people as opposed to like hide it away. Like I feel like a lot of musicians go through this experience and don't, they try to cover it up or like act like it's not that big of a deal. And here he is like being very confessional about it and explaining that it was hard, but that he's just trying to like find his path, which I think is awesome.
and not fitting in with either one of the
Right.
of either building a church or getting into rock heaven.
Yeah. And it's so weird.
All right, gentlemen, we got one more track. Let's
Wow.
get to it.
Okay. No one has said their favorite song. I wonder what it could be.
Well,
neither of y'all have. I will say.
I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't know what my favorite song is on this album. I feel like it fluctuates between Bannerman Smug and Sock Heaven because y'all just like
Oh, okay.
made this Sock Heaven song make a lot more sense to me. So
Cool.
Nice.
So Sock Heaven might be yours.
it could be.
It's in the running.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's move on to track number 10, Cash Cow, a rock opera in 3 small acts.
It was a morning just like any other morning in the Sinai Desert, 1200 BC. It glistened, it glowed, it rose from the gold of the children of Israel and most of the adults. The cash cow.
Hands down my favorite on this record.
Oh, why? Tell us why.
Tell
By
us
a
more.
lot. I don't know, man. It kind of just threw me for a loop.
In a good way this time.
Yeah, like this was the kind of zaniness I was anticipating a little bit. This, to go back, was also very musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. This is the most Hedwig song. That
Yeah.
other one had moments of it, but this one is like full on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's like literally just like narrating
Right.
while it's like this
Gothic.
kind of music
like,
that's like
creepy
very
choir.
Yeah, but that's like very indicative of like old timey kind of
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Stomps and claps.
yeah.
It feels like almost like an homage to the Charlton Heston What's
Commandments.
the name of the movie?
Ten
Ten Commandments. Thank you. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
all about the golden calf
Although
and everything.
this intro totally reminded me of the Spinal Tap song, where they have the Stonehenge.
Oh yeah,
Because like where they're just like talking and telling the story, like it feels very much like that. And this part's it's all kind of silly, but then he has some interesting stuff. Like he says, golden cash cow had a body like the great cows of ancient Egypt and a face like the face of Robert Tilton without the horns.
Without
which is
the horns,
which is
that I
like
loved.
That's
real
great.
intense. For those that don't know, he was a televangelist and like a famous evangelical preacher.
Yeah, well, and kind of still is. Like he got
Yeah. He's like
outed in like the
70-something, right?
90s. Yeah, but then I don't know if y'all have seen this Last Week Tonight episode, like a segment that they did on his church where like John Oliver's team is like corresponding with him and like the absurdity of like them just like asking for like that's what he got in trouble for, and like everyone was like, this guy just asked for money, like, and uses and then like he's still doing it, and like they did that segment like a couple years ago, but that's what I was like, dang. But I didn't know who Robert Tilton was until this, and I was like, oh dang, what a burn.
I know.
Yeah, got him good.
Deservingly so.
Also, in that same verse, I love the line talking about the golden calf, and he says, "It glistened, it glowed, it rose from the gold of the children of Israel, and most of the adults."
Yep.
It feels like a stand-up comedy, like transition joke.
Yep.
Like they're not pausing too long with the delivery; they're just like moving right on. And most of the adults, the cash cow, like
yeah,
he doesn't slow down; he just goes right into the next line.
Yeah,
so like it's a blink if you miss it, or you'll miss it kind of thing.
But then, like, so it's like it's all kind of silly.
Yep.
But then, like the kind of I guess third act of it, it's almost to me it feels like that last kind of rock and roll part of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes,
Where
this
it,
whole
like,
thing
just
also
starts,
has
like,
some huge
grooving.
Queen energy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the outro is amazing. The outro is one of my favorite moments on this album, unapologetically, because it goes hard. That's not a dig on, all the other moments on the album. That's just to say.
Yeah,
that the
it
outro is
does.
great.
It does like a 2-time kind of thing, like it's like double time, and just like gets kind
I
of.
thought it was weird having such a long gap between like when the second act ends to when that comes in.
Right.
Like I would have liked if like that part of I Deserve Better and it falls off and then like you get the guitar coming in or whatever. So maybe I would have liked it a little bit sooner, but the ending is worth the wait.
It's so good. It's just straight up rock and roll.
Yeah, Steve's finally actually rocking.
Yeah,
Like he's been talking about rocking a lot and like
Right.
trying to put on rock like a coat. Now he's finally becoming rock.
Yep.
Fully. He's arrived. Yep.
I very much enjoyed it. This is a great
Yeah, it's
song.
great.
Good. I love that. I'm glad you did.
I was surprised, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
of how much you liked it, or of this
And
song?
yeah, and
And it was your favorite.
all of it, all of the above. Because like I said, I was pretty grumpy, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm not gonna have a favorite song on this show." I guess the first song, I don't know. And then this song
Right.
came on, and I was like, "Okay."
It stuck
Okay.
the landing a little bit more than the
And
others.
then I listened to it again, and I was like, "All right, hell yeah."
Yeah, well, then he's doing wolf howls in the chorus.
Right? Yeah.
And then like right into like the
Real,
second
like,
chorus, he's like
Warren
does like
Zevon energy
a
too.
cackle, like
Yes.
a maniacal cackle laugh that I was like, this is so out there.
It is
but
pretty Zevon. I didn't think about
fits
that.
and works.
That's great.
I have a quote from him that says, "Cash Cow was just trying to take the thing sort of to the limits of absurdity."
Oh, he nailed that.
That's why I put it at the end, because on one of his previous records on the Fritz, I put Lifeboat on cut 7, and a lot of people told me, especially Near, said, "Can you put that at the end next time so we could hear it a couple times and then we could skip over it easily?"
Oh,
So that's why he put this song as last. So he's like,
And
if you
not
guys want to
finish
skip
line.
it, it's the last song so you can skip it easily.
That's so funny.
Brutal.
What an interesting moment for an artist to like pander to. Like, I don't even know if I'd call that a fan. It's like,
He said a lot of people, especially near to him, said that.
oh my goodness.
So, brutal.
Yikes.
But he took the criticism and didn't just cut
Yeah, he kept
that
it in
kind
there.
of song. He
And
still
in
did it.
fact, I think for a lot of like musicians and music music appreciators, audiophiles, and such, the last track has a special place in people's hearts, or like a level of expectation, right? You kind of hold it in high regard, just like you do a first track or like a mid album track or something. Like there's a specialness to it. So it could be like a secret way that he's kind of winking and being like, sure, last track, yeah, no problem. But it still like has like a bit of preciousness about it in a good way.
Yeah.
Because it gets to round out the album.
Yeah.
And become Kylan's favorite track, surprisingly.
Yeah, right, it's swooping in right at the end. The
I
cash
know.
cow.
But it
I
also
mean, you
makes
guys
a lot
know
of
how I
sense,
am
man.
about last song.
You got licked by the cash cow, Kylan, is what you're
I
saying?
did, yeah.
Man, yeah, watch out for that, bro. That's what the
Yeah,
song's
I
about.
landed my butter. What does he say about butter? Landed my
Oh my
butter in a
God.
sling.
Yeah. Dude, like what was it? Licking the udders or something?
Yeah, we'll land your butter. Yeah, it's wild.
Oh, and the line, I think it's verse 3, he says, cash cow coming to get you. Why? Because you think this is stupid, don't you? It's like he's breaking this giant fourth wall, like
Right.
from the Israelites to like the modern social commentary to you as an individual, the listener. Like he's like breaking through all of the walls of narrative straight at you. I felt like I was being targeted. I was
Steve
like,
was talking to you.
Yep.
I kind of do, man. Oh, you got me. You got me. The cash cow will not be mocked, he goes on to say. The cash cow's planning a coup. The cash cow chews cud bigger than you. I was like, damn, that cud probably is a lot bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
Made of gold.
But the rad song is silly as hell, but it also rocks.
Very.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we did it. We listened to Squint by Steve
That was
Taylor.
it.
We did do it.
So now we got to do our final flop or bop verdicts. What order, Josh? You pick. You tell us how we want to do this.
Kylan, me, TJ.
All right.
You gonna have me go first? Really?
Yes, I'm gonna have you
Really?
go first.
After all that, after everything
Rip
I said
this
about how
Band-Aid
it's-
off. Just rip this Band-Aid
Okay.
off. Why don't you?
all right. It was a bop.
What?
Dude.
No.
Yeah, no. I did enjoy it.
Really?
I think,
You had me going.
yeah. I had me going too, if I'm being honest with you. But
Yeah. I did not expect that.
it's
I
a
did
soft
not
bop.
either.
It's a soft
Sure.
bop.
Okay.
Easy listening and curses are almost enough to make this a full-on flop.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
But I did have fun listening to this. It did pick up my mood a little bit.
Good.
Which what more can you ask for when doing this show? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that.
I'm excited to dig more into Steve Taylor.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I was hoping that this wouldn't be like, nope, that's enough Steve Taylor for me.
No, that's enough for me. No, but it does speak to like my goofy little like 7-year-old sensibility, like the things that I really connected to with Newsboys. And it wasn't as overwhelming as I anticipated. It's there, but a lot of it wasn't just silly for silly's sake. Like there was like, so it was an interesting kind of exercise in using it like a very much like a court jester of, you can tell there's a lot of craft behind it, or like a damn good clown.
I like the court jester. Yeah, you're right.
No, that's exactly how I feel about it too. And there's a level of respect that you can offer to somebody who is approaching their craft with so much thought.
Yep. So that's where I landed.
Wow.
I know,
You
weird. I didn't
really
even expect
surprised
that.
me.
Hey, I surprised myself
Sky
too. I didn't expect it either, man.
I love it.
If this conversation had gone a different way, I very easily could have flopped it.
So it was
Right on the
entirely
line.
contextual.
I think so, but I did like it. Like I did enjoy listening to the record. So
Good.
that's enough. That's enough to just take it over the line for me.
Right on.
Nice.
A bear, like it, like if you squint, it may be a
Could
flop.
look like a flop.
But it is
Look hard
indeed.
enough.
tell.
You can see
Yeah.
the bop in there.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
looks like an F and an L, but it's really a B. Yeah.
Yeah. I know exactly
All right.
what you're talking about. I
Nice.
too myself have been there. When I said those three little words, flop or bop.
Flop or yeah, man. All right, who's next?
It's me.
All right, Josh.
Joshy boy.
Okay.
PPJ.
PPJ.
So I'm going to say I was very excited to listen to this record, and I was expecting a lot from it. And my first listen, I was very underwhelmed and was like I was let down. I was like, oh, I was really thinking this was going to be my new, like Steve Taylor's going to be my new favorite, like retro CCM artist and like a Larry Norman Jr. situation of what we had on Only Visiting This Planet. And so I was a little bummed about that.
Yeah.
But then I kept listening to the record. I don't know how many times I listened to it. I probably listened to it 4 or 5 times at least throughout the last week. And so, like TJ was saying, a lot of the songs grow on you, and the whole record really did. At first, I was not into it, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this very much. Am I going to flop this record? Is everyone going to flop this record? And then I started coming around on it, and like I said, this whole episode, a lot of the context for these songs really helped make it a lot more personal.
That did
and
help a lot,
yeah, of like why he
Completely.
wrote things, and yeah, so that was a big thing to put it over for me. So it's a very much of a contextual bop, but I'm definitely going to bop this record. I liked it a lot. I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to covering more Steve Taylor in the future. So bop for me.
All right.
Right on.
TJ, where you at, man?
Well, we're coming down to the finish line here, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be too smug, but I
How are you gonna fit in? I'm so curious.
I'm
I forget
not.
that
I'm
you
not.
do this.
Just let him do it.
I was like, I know. I
No,
was like,
there's
how
no
are you gonna
way.
fit in tracks 1 and 10?
I can't try to do it every time because then it wouldn't be as special. So I like playing with it and throwing a few out there to make y'all
Us wondering,
wonder
like, is he
if
going
I'm
to do
going
it?
to.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, not this time. But
I'm curious if this was easy listening for you or not, TJ.
curses, you got me figured out. No, I enjoyed listening to this album. It, like you said, Josh, like I said, like we've all said, it kind of had its moments that kind of grew on you, and you could appreciate. You could like dip into the lyricism, the interesting genres that he's playing with. There were also some egregious levels of appropriation and just like weird choices that didn't work for me. I think Steve's talents and style are a double-edged sword. They're both like his strengths and his weaknesses for me as a listener.
Yeah.
Because they either land and I'm like, that's really cool. You took a big swing. You're such an experimental, strange, confident, swaggering musician and singer and lyricist. And then sometimes you take big swings and they really don't land.
Yep.
So all said and done, I think I would flop this record, but I would bop an EP of
Oh, there it is.
The Lament, Bannerman, Smug, Sock Heaven, and Cash Cow. A tight
kinda like
5
Cut off
track.
the record.
The beginning and the end.
Yeah, the beginning and the end. That's all I
Yep.
want, because I think I also need Steve in doses, in small doses. I think I only have enough bandwidth for what he does, even though I really appreciate it and think it's interesting and compelling. And I like that he's so weird. And like y'all said, he's my weird, overly confident, swaggery Southern Texas uncle.
Right.
And so I appreciate it, but I only want it in small doses. Just like you don't live with that uncle, you go visit him, you know?
Right. Right.
And you're like, wow, you're a lot. And that was fun, but I need to be
This
done
is
with
really
this now.
fun for the summer.
Yep.
And
And then the fall comes and you're like, come out. So yeah, I would bop an EP of tracks 1, 2, and 3, and 9 and 10. Would not bop this album as it is.
That's half the record. I feel like that's a good amount.
Yeah. I like those songs, you know, they're weird and fun, and I feel like they'd even make a nice EP
yeah.
thematically, just those 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All right.
that's me. So we
All
got
right.
like a bop, and an almost bop. If you squint, it
A bop,
might,
a bop.
Squint, it's a triple bop.
might be a bop. Maybe.
Well, cool. All right, guys, we did it. I would love to hear from jammers. Is Squint a flop or a bop for you? We were very excited. Thanks for joining us on this journey into Steve Taylor. Finally, it's been
Yes.
long
Into
enough.
sock heaven.
So into sockheaven.org.
Finally made it.
I don't know why
To the
that's so
moshing
funny.
floor.
Oh yeah, also
Yeah.
Floor.
So if you enjoy this, we got more nonsense like it on our Patreon at patreon.com/churchjamesnowpodcast. You can also follow us on all the social media. We just got a TikTok, I believe. I don't know
True,
how it
we did.
works. But
I'm
maybe the young
slowly
kids
figuring it out.
All right. Follow us at Church Gyms Now everywhere. Of course. May all your favorite bands stay together, and peace out. Come on, friends.
Church Jams now.
Versus.
Peace out, Monfrez does sound
Barry
like
Manilow.
like a line Steve Taylor would use.
Steve Taylor line. Yep.
Yep.
Totally.